Good evening and welcome to the Ashland Planning Board meeting of Thursday, April 10th. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:19, and a reminder to everyone that the meeting is being broadcast and recorded. First on our agenda tonight is the clerk's report. Kate?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We received correspondence from two people. One was multiple that was handled response by the town planner about a preliminary subdivision. Another one was actually I received it through comprehensive plan, but it went to the town planner, so I feel like among the multiple boards, it probably meant to get to us. So
What was that regarding?
the 40B projects.
Oh, okay.
So maybe, I don't think Alvaro was copied either, so maybe I should get it to Alvaro to get, it did not say planning board, but I
Okay.
think the intent was, and that's the only reason I'm bringing it up.
Okay, I was going to say, I don't recall receiving something like that, but. I thought it was
No,
done.
but since it had multiple boards, so I can send it to Alvaro to get it out to.
Redistribute it, yep.
Yep.
Great, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is public comment. And we are online as well, right?
Yes.
So you'll be monitoring that, Alvaro, with our big audience?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, to see you, Mark. Name and address.
Mark Sony, 119 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. Thank you. Good evening. I came from the last two subcommittee comprehensive plan committees things to do. First one was a little bit short-sighted, a little bit if I say, but the last one was right to work to get things done and to be understand informative of what is going to be for the next time the group gets together. So I want to make sure that I'm well prepared, and I thank Ann, Aaron, and, oh, please say your name, Kate, for letting me sit in for both of them. Last night, went to the Finance Committee, and they financially approved the warrant. What struck me was the three zoning the bylaws that got put in. They voted to defer it to town meeting, the floodplain, the site committee, and the ADU, the dwellings. My question is, those three that's going into the warrant, going to be talking to town meeting, are those from the 2010 zoning bylaws or more up-to-date version?
Well, they're all up-to-date versions because they're a warrant for this year. So, but they're all recent things. Well, I guess the change in date isn't, but that doesn't really affect.
Well, the floodplain was almost the same as the 2010 bylaw.
Yeah, I think that was updated on
2014.
2014. I
Okay,
think that was
20.
the last time they updated it.
Okay, and the dwelling was not in the zoning bylaw at all. That was, what's the way I can say this? It was a brand new thing to bring up the first time on this board as a discussion. So that got put in, and the site plan is an up-to-date, better wording from the old 214 to up-to-date. And what they put into the warrant book for the town meeting is every single thing that is in there, all the sections, paragraphs, and everything into the warrant book for the town meeting. So I'm asking where all that information come from if it wasn't in the 214 bylaws.
I'm not sure of your question, but the warrants as went through, one of them was a very small word change. I assume you don't mean that one. The other two, most of that wording came from the state as different updates were requested and a new regulation on ADUs was made. And so they are wordier, I guess, bylaws that we're adding in due to the information we received from the state. that make sense?
So it means the sections was state sections, not our zoning bylaw sections.
Well, they are our zoning bylaw sections, but they are in reaction to, first of all, the ADU law by the state and the updates by the state, or is it federal?
Federal.
Federal updates for the floodplains. So because of those things happening outside of Ashland, Ashland needed to update our bylaws, but they are our bylaws.
Okay, go the three ones, bylaws that are in there is about almost 8 pages long.
That sounds about right.
Yep. So I was kind of saying, where did all that information come from? Maybe it did come from the 2014. So I wanted to ask that question here to see how it got worded separate.
Most of it came, a lot of it came from the state, but there were also parts from the older bylaws that we had that got integrated into the new bylaws.
Okay. And again, about the comprehensive plan, there's a meeting, regular big board meeting soon. Is there a date?
I think that's next Thursday.
We actually haven't gotten the agenda yet, but I believe it's going to be at the library. The last few, so library next Thursday at 7, typical.
Yeah, so just an update. So Samantha Riley, who is the sustainability manager or coordinator, she will be helping out with that board. So she will be working. I know that she met today with Michael and is working on drafting the agenda and kind of starting all the logistics. So moving forward, she will be the point person for those pieces of it.
So it will be posted on town website. Probably it will be the library. We don't know.
Okay, and once the comprehensive plan is done, I'm still going forward with all the committees being together for stronger policies to help this town go forward. Thank you.
No
Right.
comments online.
Okay, no comments online. I don't see anyone else online, so we will end public comment and go into public hearings. The first one on our agenda is 240 to 260 Pleasant Street. This is the Metro West facilities for the new parking and soccer fields. And you just have an update for us on that.
So they were scheduled to go in front of the design review on the April 1st, but we had a technical issue, so we were not able to start the meeting. Due to that, they requested to just move to the next planning board meeting, as they will be in front of the design review committee this upcoming Tuesday. And then they will come in back because they figure they didn't have any updates really to bring to the board. So after that meeting, they will be coming back.
So, and sorry, and you said they're going, design review committee on what date? The 4th?
The 15th.
The 15th.
Tuesday the 15th.
Okay, so,
I have a question. Did we ever get a memo to the design review?
we
Yes.
did.
Okay, we didn't see that.
Okay.
It's fine the way it's been handled, but typically at the turnaround we've seen, the board's
Yeah.
seen it.
That we can forward that on. It's been a little crazy. My to-do list is exceptionally long. But yeah, we can forward that off to you. But they did receive that. So today all we'll be doing is, unless someone has any questions like that, we will just continue that hearing to April 24th and hear it then.
You want to make a motion?
Please.
I'll make a motion to continue the 240, 260 Pleasant Street Metro West Facilities LLC hearing for the site plan review, design plan review, and site alternation special permit to April 24th, 2025.
Second that.
And a roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Catherine Jersey guy.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So that will be on the 24th. Next is the House Street Scenic Road. This was the annual circuit clearing of the trees. I think we all got the draft of that. Was there any questions on the draft?
No changes for me. Everybody is nodding no, so I'll make a motion to approve that letter as is.
Second,
And a roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Catherine Jersey guy.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So we'll need to, Was that just me signing that?
Yes.
Is that, did we talk about that? I don't remember. We did? Okay,
I used the draft from, or the sample from last time.
okay. I'll take care of that. Sorry, making a note here. Next on our agenda is 100 Chestnut Street, the Asher Development. This was the approval letter memo for the sign that we talked about at the last meeting that would list the various businesses, the tenant directory sign, listing the various businesses at the entrance of 91 to 100 Chestnut Street, which I believe is the main entrance. I think that letter also went out to the board. Is that in the?
It is, it's in the packet. I had no changes.
I didn't get a chance to send it in, but we've changed the coding, which I think is good. So AB for abstain, there is no A in the coding, and I have an A on my name,
Oh,
Oh,
and
I see.
I thought.
I was an AB.
Yep.
Wait a minute, I thought I, yeah, well, if you looked at below, oh,
Just an A,
So we're just going to change Kate's to AB.
AB. Or keep it at an A.
They should match.
you know,
That makes sense.
I was, I had changed it to an A for absent and an X for not present. So the B was, I didn't know about that until right now, because I had looked at it before.
It's not absent, it's abstain, though.
Abstain, sorry.
Just
But,
so we don't
yes,
get.
but AB for an abstain and an X for an absence, right? Which before they both were As, so, but the AB must have come out, is that more,
Yeah, I don't know if there was just some
back and forth
form,
about
yeah,
what?
about something, but yeah,
So I'll
Which is
make,
fine.
I'm happy to.
so I'll make a motion to approve that letter as drafted with the AB change for Kate.
Right, very efficient, sounds good.
I wasn't present on that.
You're noted as an X absent.
Yeah, and again, also, I guess the page changes because I'm not going to sign this.
You just don't
You
sign.
just
think,
decide,
yeah.
So I'll, again, make a motion to approve it as is with the AB change.
Second.
And a roll call vote. So you don't know if you can,
Oh, if you can vote. Oh, that's right. So you skip it.
So I can vote, I abstained on that, but that doesn't mean I'm abstaining from voting on the letter, I guess. So Catherine Jersey, aye.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
and Tricia Kendall, aye. So,
Excuse me.
okay, so we will be signing that
Yeah,
after.
I have just the pages here
Is it just one copy or is it multiple copies?
for this. It's 3 copies, because we always leave one on the town clerk. Yep. Oh, here.
Whatever, yeah, we can just pass them down and,
No, it's on the last page, so I can just update the other one.
Okay.
Yep. Yes. Oh, perfect.
I'm good. Plopping these right on you. Not looking what I'm doing. Welcome. Thank you. Had a very busy week, I assume. Okay, so that is the public hearing section. Item, well, I guess the other one was too. Okay. Item 6 on our agenda is 60 Waverly Street, the comprehensive letter that we want to get to the zoning board of appeals. Was anything done on that, Alvaro?
No,
Okay.
on my end at least.
Okay.
I
because
thought I had sent something to
you
Peter.
did. You,
I received some
Okay.
comments, yes.
yeah, you
Okay.
received the but I don't, not sure Peter got to it.
Got-
or that
I don't
anyone
think-
got to
yeah,
it.
I don't think.
So, so that still needs to be done. It's not we talked to John Trefethen last week, he said it wasn't
Yeah.
a rush. So now that, well, I'm not saying that, I don't think the dust is settling, but now that we've gotten through that first week, we've got some other things taken care of. I'll look at that, or we'll look at that again this week. Put it on the list.
Yeah, and I guess the easiest way will be if you have any comments, you can send it to me, and then I can just kind of like convolute
Squeeze them all
everything.
together.
Yep, and then from there we can, whoever
But I
wants to
think
work
we
on
were
it.
going to start with this version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
format that we had from the last one.
Yeah, I mean, so
Believe-
you sent the document you were working on in the meeting, you sent it to Peter and Al.
Yeah.
Do you
I
have it?
received it.
Okay.
Do we want to go through it and just see if Deepa has other comment, like,
I can see if
because
I would, well, in the interest of time, since we went through this once
Yep.
before, what I would suggest is, I know we didn't get to it this week, that Alvaro and/or I take a pass at it, send it back
Okay.
out to the board, and then,
comments would go to Alvaro?
and then
Okay.
comments can go back to Alvaro.
That's
So we
fine.
don't,
Okay.
just to be efficient. But yeah, I was actually looking at that, I was rewatching that meeting this afternoon, so to kind of
Okay.
remember where we were with it. And figured it had fallen off the must-do this week
Yeah.
because of everything else, so that's fine. Number 7 on here is an approval not required plan for Ashland, Sherburne, and Framingham open space. And this is kind of interesting, but a little complicated, and are you gonna?
Yes, so I
Talk
can
about that.
explain it, but, so we were planning today I was planning to bring the Mylar so it could get signed, but there was some questions about so I think that it's on your binders and you can look in page, I think it's the first page, yeah. So this one is a grant that Framingham, I think, championed, and then it's gonna come to become a conservation restriction land. But the parcel of land happens to be falling within the 3 different communities, right? Framingham, Sherburne, and Ashland. So as the process of purchasing that land, what the requirement was is to make an A&R, so you could have a clear idea of what are the boundaries that this property is gonna be being purchased and what would the town receive. Because after that it will move to conservation and then they will work on the conservation restriction. So I spoke with the planner of Framingham, who has been the one in charge of leading this. And so when they gave us the A&R, there was 2 parcels at the bottom that had 2 different name of owner compared to our assessor's map. And so we wanted to make sure that that was correct. So we did a title search, we sent it back to our assessors and the town council, and they came back saying that the one that we had on the assessors was correct. So we sent back that information to Framingham. So I think now they just want to double check on that, and if it's correct on their end as well, they can fix the A&R, and next meeting that we bring it, it will be clear. But that was just kind of like the back and forth.
Now, when I talked about it with Peter, we thought I thought he was telling me that the current assessor's map was incorrect. Was that,
Yeah.
did they,
I think after doing the title search, they actually found that the assessor's map was correct.
Oh, okay.
And that there was an incomplete deed at some point. So when the surveyor was looking at it, they found a document that didn't connect to the next couple of years. And so that's when they kind of like lost and didn't know what was happening there. So
Okay.
that's why they were like, okay, the assessor's map of Ashland shows this owner, but we only see a deed up to this time. So now that town council has done their research, they're drafting a memo to send it back to the Framingham Planning Department so they can make sure that that is cross-referenced.
so, so you're saying that once all of that is complete and that information, then we'll look again at the NAR?
Yeah, because my understanding is that they're gonna redo the Mylar, so these don't have those questions on the side, and they have the
Okay.
actual owner that the assessor's map in
Okay.
Ashland has.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay. Interesting. That's been a real back and forth there.
Yeah.
Trying to find the
Good
real.
reading.
Yeah, trying to find some, the real history, I guess, of that. Okay. So there's nothing, that's kind of a heads up to us about what's coming, but
Yep.
there's nothing for us to do on it tonight.
Nothing at this moment, yep.
Okay. All right. We are like setting records here.
Do we want to approve the minutes of March 27th before we go through the retreat and updates?
Yeah, we could do that.
They're right behind.
I just need a
They're-
minute because I didn't have a chance to look at them.
March 27th was just Tricia, Ann, and Kate. And I did not have any changes to the minutes.
Oh, so that was just last week or 2 weeks ago? I mean?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh,
That's how up to speed we are.
we are.
There is on the second page, under the motion, the first motion, it's ANC 300, but it's actually ANC
And A N
SI.
These minutes used to have like line numbers.
They do, I think
Yeah.
that just because we went through the new format,
That's
we
okay.
forgot to put it, but
Okay,
yes,
no
I'll
worries.
make a note.
Yeah, that might help next time for you.
I didn't remember that they talked about the bottom of the wires, but I guess. Sides and bottom of the wires. I don't think we have that in our letter. Do we? On the letter we just did for the pruning, I thought it just said the sides and
Top,
just the sides and the top.
I think that should be top, not bottom of the wires.
Yeah, because I don't remember them talking about anything about the bottom of the wire, because nothing falls on the bottom. Things that are
Yeah.
below the wire don't fall on the wire.
I
So
think it
I
should
thought
just
it
be-
was just the sides and the top,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is that.
sounds,
so.
so it should just be bottom of the wires crossed.
Yeah, I think it was just 10 feet around the sides
And 15 above.
and 15 above. I mean, that was my recollection, and
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
how I
my
understand it,
question,
too.
but. I think on page, I don't know if we can put, let's see, it would be the third page from the back, where we're talking about the size of the sign. There was kind of a misunderstanding, I think, when we were talking about the size of the sign, which I don't want to be kind of misconstrued here, because it talks about the sign regulations state that signs must be 4 square feet. But really that is, in looking at it later, that really is part of a regulation that's about peddling and, what was the other word? Something in peddling. So it was really about, it's really about a sign, a temporary sign that you might have on your person or out in front of your business. It's not it's not a sign related to a building. And so it's actually falls under a whole different section of the bylaws that aren't even part of the zoning bylaws. So I just want to make sure that we're not like, hey, this is a building sign that's 4 feet, when it's not really,
I
that's
mean,
not
the
really
only
the
problem is we
regulation.
did say that, so you'd have to put like, you'd be editing
Yeah, I
the
know.
record, so you have to be
That's why
careful
I'm
about
wondering what
that.
to do, because it's kind of saying that it's, I guess in these minute,
I was gonna say maybe in these minutes, just
we
make
can
a note
make
to the
that
record.
correction,
Yeah, and
like
it
an
was
edit.
peddling and soliciting
That's what, yeah, there, peddling and
under
soliciting.
under section 215.
Right. So okay, so maybe in upcoming minutes, we'll make a note back to these minutes, just so that is clarified. So, all right, other than
All
that,
right,
I
I'll
don't
make
have
a
any-
motion to approve the March 27th, 2025 minutes with changes that Kate and Tricia proposed.
Second,
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Catherine Jersey guy.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So, minutes are approved. And I think we need to go back and just make sure everything from 2024 was taken care of. Once in a while, there's a, there's a meeting where we popped on the select board.
There
and
is, I
things
looked
like that.
today, so the ones that are, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that, is that under, we were talking about minutes, but it's generic, so I don't know. if
It's Janet, I think you can go ahead.
I think minutes are considered.
Okay, so then we can, I looked today, so there's several that say like MBTA public hearing, and I believe the way we handled those was like, it was a public hearing and we just put a statement. But there is one meeting missing from like 24, I don't remember the date. So one meeting that's not one of those.
Yeah, sometimes, like I said, when we have a joint meeting, or we go on the select board meeting, it's listed as a meeting, but we don't go back and put the little section that we have from popping on another meeting, which we need to do, so I made a note to take a look at those, just so we can wrap it up before we get too far into the year here.
Do we want to go through all the updates and then come back to the retreat items?
Sure, if we want. I don't think I have any.
For the comprehensive
Updates?
plan, I'll just say that we had a subcommittee that met for about 5 hours to review the strategies for the comprehensive plan. The subcommittee included me and Kate, and I believe 3 or 4 other members of the committee, and then we bring our input from the strategies back to the committee, which is meeting next Thursday.
I will add a clarification. That was specifically only strategies that a member of the steering committee had identified to talk about, but there were too many to get through in a whole committee, so we didn't go back to 0. And then I think everyone knows, but like at soon enough, although Trish reminded me it's into May, my term, that we will need, I would assume the planning board would want to replace another representative to the comprehensive plan steering committee.
Right. So we'll
That's a good update.
probably handle it at the second meeting in May, I guess.
So we should add that to the agenda.
And I
We
guess,
may want to put it on the May 8th agenda so we can discuss what it means and give the board some thoughts about participation prior to Kate's departure. What would be your last meeting?
oh, yeah,
The second meeting in May would be your last meeting.
No, because the election's May 20th.
Gotcha. So you would only have one meeting with us in May. So we may want to have it on the agenda for April 24th if we have a full board. Is Amanda going to be there at the April 24th meeting?
I
We don't know.
know.
Okay.
But I guess it's kind of getting an overview, because then we'll have 2 new board members, assuming we will. And then, won't we,
We'll have to appoint someone.
well, and then we'll need another discussion so that
Yep.
those people could take it into consideration as well, right? So,
Okay. Those are all the updates. Any reports on planning topics, Alvaro?
No.
I did have a CPC meeting, but really, we were just going through, if I remember right, just during the different warrants that'll come up at town meeting, and different amount of money that is being assigned to various projects, so nothing, I don't think there was anything new that we talked about, so.
Any update on the town planner search?
No, nothing that I know of.
I think I had sent you some questions. You wanted questions from the board
Yeah, I
to gather
didn't
up.
receive any more questions, so.
You got mine, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have scribbles of questions, so I got to get those in. And then I guess
Are
we're
we-
going to get them back to the board. So.
Yeah, I thought we were going to bring them here and talk about them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when the questions, if you want to combine them, we can, nothing's happening yet, though, on the applications, but.
Okay.
Michael.
Well-
No, so yeah, you were in here last time, so Jen Ball contacted me several weeks ago now, shortly after finding out, I guess, opening the position. So what they have typically done has had ideally 2 members of the planning board, so me plus 1 other member, and Jen Ball, who's just the assistant town manager, and the HR director. And that 4-person working group, when they get a handful of candidates that they think will be good candidates for the position, they interview those candidates, and then any names that they think that they would like to fill the position, they put forward to the town manager for him to then interview them. But the position is open until filled, so it's not just one deadline for candidates and then they pick someone from there. It's looking really for the right, best candidate, yeah, so, which makes it a little difficult in the meantime for our friend Alvaro here. But but hopefully we'll get that filled soon, but I don't have any other information on it.
Any new projects we should be aware of coming?
We have not received any update on any new projects, though.
So we don't have any bigger projects that we're anticipating the next couple months?
No,
Right
at
now?
least nobody that has come into the planning department to give me any heads
Okay.
up.
So that seems like a good transition to talk about the retreat items, right? I think we covered everything, right, Tricia? We can go back to the to item 8.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So, and Kate, Kate had formatted and printed out that goal list.
So I updated this from last time. The MBTA zoning got taken off, so I renumbered the green. I just left because they're in progress. We think they'll probably be okay, but they're still in progress. And
Hold on a second. Hold on, the AGU is still in progress. Number 7.
That was the change from 30
Oh,
days to 65.
gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, now I get it, sorry.
and then like number 6, obviously bylaw review is big, right? That doesn't really cover it, but I did update, like, the sign bylaws potentially need to be updated. So there weren't major changes since the last time I issued this, but
So there's one thing I think is missing, which is, I thought we created a checklist for projects that would go like on the front of every,
we have that.
where is that?
That's done and we're using it.
Okay, I just want to make sure we kind of know that that was probably number 20 or whatever it was, because that was an important thing that we did.
So we have a draft. We assume it's going to keep as we start using it. And I did it for one project I did it for the dog park, but
Yep.
that was quick, so it didn't really get
Yeah.
looked
And
at.
where is it? Like, do we have it somewhere, that checklist?
I have it, I guess, as the clerk, and I said I would do it for now.
Okay.
And I started it for the Pleasant Street project. I actually need to find out from Alvaro when the application was stamped, because on the website, it does not give the date. So I do need that, because that's
So
part of it.
if you're only with us one more meeting, Kate, it sounds like you should get that checklist over to Tricia and Alvaro.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a blank to all of us, because that's a key thing that we accomplished
Yep.
last year that we should have for our next
Yeah,
next
that
series of
could stay
projects.
always in your binder, so you can kind of just
Yeah,
like check
that
as
was
it
the
goes. as
idea.
it
Yep. Yeah, I just figured I would get it I saw that the Pleasant Street was off, so I didn't, yeah, I have it ready. I could have sent it, but I know that Alvaro's probably been flooded
Yeah.
with stuff, so.
A little bit.
So if we only have 2 meetings left with Kate, is there a particular topic, Kate, that you feel you care most about, that you want to discuss while you're still on the board?
Well, I feel like I don't know what number it is, but we had kind of kicked it around a little about, so projects come in front of us, when they're big projects, they almost assuredly through like design or construction would have some changes. And I think we did agree that there should be a process for that. So A, it's transparent, like, did someone look at it and agree if we stick with de minimis, right? There's a couple ways. We can say, the planning board believes these are de minimis, but still someone should review it, sign their name to it, and come back to the board that's one way. Or everything has to be just written up what it is, and then it goes with the record with the project. So in my experience, we haven't had that. I told you before, members of the public have said, well, why doesn't the project look what was approved when they go to the website? This is a way to be transparent to the public, be honest to ourselves, and get the project we asked for, et cetera. So I feel like that wouldn't be hard, but we don't have a mechanism right now.
Where
Officially.
is this?
Number 18?
Gotcha.
Yep.
So just so I understand what you're saying, when the project is submitted, it's supposed to be complete, like a complete application?
No, so
Like what-
a large project, so this, we can have the Asher, they were in
Yeah.
front of us, so I'm not saying something. It's still early, right? They have to design enough a level to come to us, they have to design a level to get funding, but it's not issued for construction.
Okay.
So in that process, or on-site on construction, you find an
Oh, I
obstruction.
see, if changes are being made,
It-
how
they-
we're going to address those
They
changes.
almost assuredly will, so let's be honest with ourselves, they will. So what do we want to
Okay.
do about it,
I
right?
understand. So I think the easiest way this comes up is like, we have a picture at the time we approve the project, and then they start building something that looks totally different.
Hopefully
some
that
way.
doesn't happen,
Yeah.
but yeah.
In some detail, in some small detail that's.
Well, we can be smart and get ahead of that, so it doesn't happen. We already know that small detail is going to change,
Yeah,
right?
well, I think it's more, I mean, there's a checkpoint in a way at when the construction drawings are submitted, right? Where we're just saying, what we see and approve are design drawings, early design drawings, right? And that doesn't mean they change the whole scheme, right? They've already invested a lot into engineering and et cetera, et cetera. But between the drawings that we see, which are, maybe at 20% of a complete set, a lot can happen between there and 100% of the complete set. For instance, I know at the Asher, some things changed because when they started doing the energy calculations, they needed to enclose the parking below. I think it was going to be open just with a grate. They needed to enclose the parking to make the new stretch energy code. And to make that happen. So it's not necessarily bad changes, they're just changes that you don't do at 20, when your project's at 20%. So, but when you get the construction drawings, those are 100%, right? And that would be a point where they could be looked at to see, or reviewed perhaps with the with the applicant's architect probably, to really see what the changes are. I mean, it would be better in process when they notice those, that they give us a heads up.
So do we want to create some kind of language for our decisions that basically says on large projects or any project that's construction, like, hey, we approved particular things, find some kind of language from other boards that sort of says, hey, the expectation is that if there are substantial changes at the time of construction, that you'll come back, or you'll notify us, or what? Like, how do we do this?
Well, so what Asher thinks is substantial and Kate Jerzik thinks substantial, and my neighbor as a
Right.
citizen thinks are not going to match.
Right.
So
No,
we
I understand.
cannot,
So we need to figure out what that means.
Yeah.
Like, there's two ways to do it. Either at each project, we put our foot down as the board and we say, these 5 things better not change, and if they do, in our decision, it says you come back and talk to us. We either have to do it that way, project by project, or we have to find some standard that is allowed by law, right? Which is like a bylaw or a rule of some kind.
I think
So-
it can be a combination of the two, right? I think there's some things, for example, just from the look and feel or the materiality. For example, 501 Pond, we approved it 2 years ago. It's nowhere near construction. Material manufacturing process can change, colors can change. So the product that was approved is going to, so that's kind of the general ones that I think can by default be put in our process, like if materiality undergoes some changes, but energy-related changes that may happen in the life of that project, which when you come to construction documents, you obviously have to follow that code then. Those are things that I think, again, could also be elements that we can capture as general items because it's going to have an impact on the facade of buildings in many cases. I think it may be wise for us to define and have two scales, one which has got massive impact versus one which we can.
So I read a bunch. I mean, most of the ones that have, there's many that have them, they use the term de minimis and then they define what that is. So then everything else has to,
Did you have that, some language like that?
well, they don't consistently say what they think is de minimis.
Right.
But, so that's the way to say everything else has to come back. That's one thing. So I think it's the opposite of what you're saying, but it accomplishes the same thing. It's standardized, right? So the planning, these are de minimis changes. I would argue that nobody gets to make them without a record because now we don't have a record. And so that's one thing. Define de minimis changes, define who reviews that, which of the ones I looked at, they range from the planning department with, we had said before, maybe one person from the board to just come to the board, give me your little presentation.
And is this in a decision typically or in the bylaw?
It's just as far as I know, it's just part of the planning board process. Just like we say, do this for an application, give us so many prints of
Right.
this size. It's just, I would think we would want to add it to our decisions when
Yep.
we tighten it up.
Right.
But the rest of it appears to just be
Yeah.
process.
I mean, I like Deepa's kind of definitions of some stuff, like materiality can be kind of, it's almost like things inside your control versus outside. So energy-related code changes are outside of everyone's control, and there should be an understanding that we don't need to approve that. Like, we, the planning board, don't need to say, yes, you must follow code. But certain types of materiality, we probably want them to come back. So to me, I kind of like that distinction that Deepa is making, and we just need to kind of put it on
But
paper.
here's where I don't think it's that simple. So the energy code changed, so I need a much bigger HVAC on the roof to handle it, and now it's not screened. And you said I don't
understand.
have to come back.
Yeah, I
so,
got you.
yeah, so the energy, things like energy code could cause,
I
Yeah.
understand, substantial things.
substantial changes,
I got
which should be,
Fenestrations
yeah,
change,
which should be looked at in that light by the board,
I
like,
got you.
Yeah.
so,
And
Yeah.
even for solar panels, for example, it may be a 2-year plan to install solar panels, and we assume that it's going to be totally hidden, for example. But when it's actually installed, you start to see all these panels. So some of those things that may matter to us as a planning board, I think we should quantify, kind of start to list what really matters.
I mean, maybe what we need is just a memo from the planning board to potential applicants that just says, hey, we don't have a defined rule at the time, but we are concerned about these types of things. Like, here's 4 examples of the kinds of things we've seen or that we imagine that we're concerned about. So as we approve projects, we can share the memo with them, and we can just be like, hey, can you agree with us that if it comes down to construction and you're seeing this kind of thing happen, you're gonna come back? And we can list some of those examples and see how it works out, and kind of through the process of learning project by project, we can start to define the rules or the boundaries of what we're looking at. Because right now, it's kind of theoretical to me, other than one project I can think of, which I was not involved in, where there was some major changes that maybe were not what the planning board envisioned, that maybe were material related or. cetera.
So,
Other than
but-
that, I don't have a live example that I can touch.
But what's the problem with doing something that is quantifiable, the opposite? These are de minimis, we aren't as concerned, we still need you to tell us about them.
So what would they
Because I think we're gonna miss something if we're doing it your way, I am sure of it.
I'm good with going your way, as long as, like, we have,
So they said, like,
What do you want us to
examples were, if you want to move where the fire hydrant, I'm giving real examples that people said, right? Because you'd probably have to coordinate that with someone else in town, but we aren't gonna care. I think generally, like the water sewer, because I assume they did not write this all down, that's probably, to do a change of where your water sewer, you probably have to work with another department. They were pretty minimal, the lists were short.
can you send that to the board? Or
I
I feel like
mean,
we should write it out if it's something that we care about as a board.
I mean, I didn't put more effort until people sort of agreed with the methodology or even wanted to do it, but I would say, we should say, de minimis changes, what we consider. I don't personally see why they wouldn't all come in front of the board, because we
I think
can,
this is your document from before.
and I probably didn't put details of that part, it was more process, but
There's a list.
De minimis changes may be approved for such changes included but not limited to a total number of parking spaces, parking space size and alignment, drainage, surface stormwater, curb opening dimensions and locations, provided such opening has been approved by the highway department, removal of underground storage tanks and underground utilities, minor changes to water sewer, changes in hydrant location, site building elevation, topography changes, changes in walkways, and screening rubbish collection areas. I mean, this seems like a good list to me. These are the kinds of things the public tends to be upset about if suddenly,
But those are the ones
Rubbish
that they're
is not-
saying are de minimis, and they didn't say they don't have to come back to the board, it depends what town, but, so yeah, I don't think our
no,
board
but
would,
it says we might approve these changes to a previously approved plan. We might approve changes to this.
you have to come back,
You
okay.
have- Right, yeah. I took it to mean that these things may be approved. That's how I'm reading it. Am I misreading it?
Yeah, because they
I'm
set up,
misreading it?
I think so, so, the de minimis changes may be approved, okay, and they
Maybe
have.
approved means you have to come back for approval,
Yes,
right?
but they have most of the towns that had a semi-alternate process, meaning not the full board. Meaning it went to planning department, and planning board rep.
That's fine,
or
but what
the
I'm
whole
saying is
board.
these things, if you want these things changed, you have to get someone to approve them, right? I think that's how I'm reading it.
Well, so legally, the de minimis is usually like, it doesn't get as much attention, so,
Okay,
so that's,
Maybe I'm not-
yes, maybe, but not exactly.
just badly written then.
Yeah. So I think that I've been thinking about this a lot and reading, like, why would it be a harm to come back to the whole board? Like, we can be efficient at our meetings and
No,
we're getting,
Sorry to interrupt
better.
you, Kate. I'm reading like their rules and regulations. The way I'm reading it is exactly accurate. They're defining these changes to be the changes that you would have to request for approval to approve. So the word de minimis is somewhat confusing.
it might be, those are several different ones, I think.
This is
Example,
Shrewsbury.
yeah.
That's Shrewsbury.
Oh, maybe,
Yeah, this is all Shrewsbury, this page. I guess what I'm telling you is I like the way Shrewsbury is doing it. Whether we want, I mean, I like the idea of it coming back to the board, just like it's done here. Shrewsbury has this coming back to the board itself. But the problem, where I'm confused is this in their actual zoning? That's the part that I don't know if we can just do this.
I think they're in a process, like a planning board process.
Yeah, and then is whatever, if it's part of the process, and then if that's in the approval document, then yeah, then that's part of the process. I think, to me, the difference is things, like you said, like a fire hydrant. If the fire department wants the fire hydrant here,
Yeah.
that's where I'm gonna put it.
Exactly.
Right? For me, more of the issues are the massing, what the building looks like, the shape and size of the windows, but not to not to,
Smallest detail.
not to the smallest detail, because windows only come in certain sizes. You had to eke it for the energy code. You had to make all the windows a little smaller, whatever. We don't want to be dealing with that, because if they would have presented the first windows to us the first time, we would have said they were okay, right? So, but it's, yeah, it's like those things on the elevations say, the plan and elevations, the massing, that when a layperson can look at the drawings and say, oh, these are different. Why are they different? Versus, yes, I went on site and I said, yeah, these are different, but other people didn't notice them, right? But there should be a level of change where people can notice without me saying, look at right here, do you see how this is different? Then I don't think that's, if I need to spell it out, see how this comes a little bit further than that one?
Yeah.
Then I don't.
So we could
I think
say
it's
it
a
as
waste of time.
it's visible to a reasonable person.
Yeah,
You can create a
basically.
reasonable person standard.
Yeah,
Which is Provincetown had some, but so I think, are we agreeing it comes to the whole? So this is, from all this conversation I'm hearing is, when we get IFC, we should ask for a write-up of what changed, and that should come to the board.
What's an IFC?
Sorry, issue for construction drawings.
I don't know if we need it automated for every time that happens. I think we just need to make it part of our decisions that in our decision, we just say, at the time of construction, our rule, whatever rule that we have needs to be followed. And if these things are happening, we're trusting the applicant that if you're doing these 10 things plus whatever 2 more that we're going to add, you're going to come back to us. I don't know if we need it every single time there's a construction permit pulled. I don't know if we need to double check everything. We just need to trust the applicant that you're going to follow the rules. If you see these changes, you're going to come back. Or are you
I just
envisioning
don't
every
see
single
it's that
project?
hard to give us the bullet point list of what changed, and that goes on the website with records for, I don't think that's a big ask.
Well, it does, I'm somewhere in between here. I think there are some things like, this does not need to come back, where the fire hydrant goes does not need to come back to the planning board again, right? Like, I don't care, fire department wants it, move it, right? I think other things that are also of a level, like when Dasher came back to us with changes, there were, I mean, if you have to know what degree of change you're looking for, because if you're pointing out every change, it's probably going to be the whole facade. This corner board changed, that window side's changed, this window slid over a little bit. Here there's 3 windows, now there's 2. Like, it could be a whole
I mean,
list
the
of
way
things.
this is written in these other communities, Provincetown, Shrewsbury, et cetera, is I'm an applicant, I file an application to get these approved.
Yes.
So it doesn't read like whenever you have a construction permit, you must come back. It reads more like, this is our decision, I'm assuming, this is our decision, this is what you're building, this applies. And then when you're building, we are trusting you to come to us and apply for these changes to be approved. Read our regulation, not our regulation, our rule, whatever it is, and follow it. That's part of the obligation of an applicant. Obviously, it's a whole other conversation if they don't follow through, but I would not want to put a burden on every applicant to kind of prove that nothing has changed. I think we have to have some trust, if you will. At least this is how the other communities
No,
are
there
doing
are
it,
other communities that do that.
that are doing it more
Yeah.
like you must come each time.
Yeah.
Well,
They have a, like a basically giving a status what changed.
I think from documentation point of view, every time you're filing drawings for permit and you have bulletins where you have changes, you are creating by default bulletin list.
Which can come
tells
to
you-
us.
which
It doesn't
tells
come
you
to us
what
right now.
exactly is being changing 3 feet away, 5 feet away.
Right.
It is a holistic approach. So it's like giving a copy, if you will, to planning board. But I think the intent here is if a project life cycle is 4 years from schematics to construction and occupying,
Yeah.
I don't think we want to do policing. So I think it needs to be a document that is kind of additions to our conditions, which says if there's major changes, here are the possible lists. When do they come back? What point? What is our approval time frame? Because you can't obviously have construction lined up and waiting for board to approve, and then back and forth and design changes. So I think it's a very involved process.
I think there's some point between 20% and 100% where things do get locked into place,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's more of
It
them.
doesn't become a fire, yeah, of construction usually.
Right, so that they're coming, when they think that they have things pretty much locked in place, that's when they come back and said, hey, we made these changes. You know, and I think it would be something like, you know, as we put in that the approval should not be unreasonably withheld, right? Because this is a normal way, this is just how construction works, right? So unless it's really against the spirit of the project, the spirit of our review, what we were looking for, then it's probably going to be okay, you know? So, but it would at least have that dialogue, and there'd be no surprises, you know, in the end.
Do
So,
you view it as like for every project when they pull permit, construction permit?
no, I think it's before that. I think that they should be made aware. The thing is, sometimes I wonder if there's a disconnect between the approval, which is probably read very thoroughly by the applicant's attorneys, and what the architect sees as they go, the architect, the landscape architect, as they go through their process. And like, hey, this would actually be better than this. Oh, we had to change this hallway for fire egress standards, so now we had to change this unit window to be this, right? Just, it's a ripple effect. So, but I don't know sometimes that the designers at the end of this is getting, you know, is reading through that document. You know, so I don't know how that, if it's a reminder to the applicant, please have your designers list blah, blah, blah of these changes. And at some point before applying for the per building permit, if you have changes, you know, we need to see them. We
I
need
kind
to.
of like that. That approach makes sense to me.
So then but again, I think as Deepa had said, this is like you know, we get the drawings, we look at them before the meeting, we're like, hey, 9 out of 10 of these are like, yep, I get it, but number 10 kind of bothers us. Can we, you know, why did you make that change? Can we smooth that out a little bit? You know, whatever.
And it may be too late from the other side to really have the designer go through changes because your drawings are all kind of almost done. And at the same time, what I have always in my professional life been afraid is setting process that is not just true for today, but for tomorrow. All of us may change and move out of it. We may have a planning board who's not in this industry, right? And how would they kind of look at this process? Would that be really helpful for them? And what is that scale that way? Because if you
they
leave
can always
design to
change-
interpretation,
I mean,
it's very hard.
Listen, right now we have a board with a designer and an architect. Let's take care of it. And the thing is, if a future board finds it useless, they'll erase it and recycle it.
No, I think
a
it's
rule,
just, I think it's also just having part of the, at least my understanding of that was having part of the process that it's not like, okay, one or two members of the planning board will look at it and decide if it's small changes, because you might not have, it might be the board like when I came on where there were no designers on the board. Like it was, there was
I don't know
not.
if you need,
Well,
I don't
I
know if
don't
you
think
need
you do.
designers
What I
to
think
do
you keep in
this.
mind, would the public think this is something different and
Yeah,
we
I
have no
don't-
record?
I
That's,
don't-
if you
I-
keep that in mind, you don't have to be a
I
designer.
think the two of you are
Yeah, I don't think
bringing,
that's what I was saying,
you're
but-
bringing an architect design perspective, which is really important, but I don't think this is so complicated for a reasonable person to see major differences.
But that's what I mean,
So-
the level of those differences, because both when I was earlier on the board without any other designers, I am seeing it differently, and that's why it's important to try to spell out a little bit of what a major change is and what it isn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna spot things at a different level of detail.
Absolutely. So looking at these, for example, when I look at the 10 Shrewsbury items I read, like the number of parking spaces, you don't really need an architecture background to know how that changes. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, if we're gonna add to this list something that is more design oriented, we can make it super specific. But what's on here is very straightforward. Like, changing drainage, I think we can all see what that means. Changing hydrant location is not gonna take any design background, like, you're either here or there. So ultimately, this does not, to me, this does not require a lot of detail. We
Right,
just need to kind of agree to it, and then if we add design elements to it, absolutely, let's be as specific as possible as to what disturbs us.
Right, to me, most of the things on this list are things that they discuss with the building commissioner. That's what these are to me.
And when it comes in front of the planning board, fire hydrant really don't show up in all your elevations.
I mean, if you believe this is all for building inspector, that's fine, but we should have that in our rules, because I don't know if it is. Like, how do we know that we're doing all that? Like, who's approving all this stuff now? So either way, whether it's coming to us or the building inspector, we should have
Well,
a
and I
rule
guess,
that
so
makes
the
it very
other
clear.
side of this is, if there's no process, it could be a bigger change that doesn't get approved. Because I think the why you make this is there's these de minimis, they get recorded, you say, yeah, I agree, like you said, your example, 9 of these, we don't care, and they're fine, and hey, we want to talk about this other one. But every single one of those had, when it's a bigger change, it's like you reopen that application. And we never have, we don't, maybe it didn't need to be done, I'm not saying, but like I've watched a lot of planning board meetings before I was on the board, pay attention, like Mark, and now I'm on the board, like, I don't believe we have a good process for that.
So-
And that's related
So-
to this, right?
Let's pretend we're talking about the project next to your house for a second. And
I
we'll
don't
use
think
that.
I can, because I'm on the
Fine.
board, sorry.
Okay, let's pretend we're talking to a project that doesn't exist, that one of us decides looks sketchy. This right here, whatever we come up with, will force a conversation. Then the board can discuss as a board and vote on it, whether this is something we need to reopen or not.
Yep.
So I don't have a problem with a process that allows for a conversation. I don't think, any protocol that we create, it's not gonna require them to do anything other than it's gonna give us a chance to speak.
Well, I mean, that's
and
my
make a
point, like,
decision.
there's another part to this that doesn't have to be written, it gets it back in front of the board to have those, like, that view and those conversations.
Or it's simple as like, if you have a list of items, we say, when you're ready to submit your drawings for permit, use this as a checklist, and if there are any major changes, give us a heads up. It could be, I don't know, depending on the scale of the changes, we could figure out if we need to have like a review online or offline.
Yeah, and I think some of this, like, I mean, this isn't always, well, I mean, yeah, maybe it's up to us, but I would also like to understand, like Doug Scott's view on this. I would like to understand, curb opening dimensions and locations. Like, is that something, if the fire department would care about that, which they might, then it should say on the list. If they're like, it's changed all the time a little bit, it's fine, And if it's not, in the end, if it's not the way it should be, I mean, it can be changed,
But
right?
neighbors might care about, we had that conversation about ADU, that people might not want another curb cut. So I mean, it's not just as simple as,
I'm not saying another curb cut, I'm just saying like
But
the
I mean,
size.
to me, it's kind of like, it's up to us as the planning board to decide, when we approve a project, when all of these details are already there, we should decide if we care for it to come back to us. When it
Yeah.
comes back to us, we can consider and ask the fire department if they care. I don't know if I would ask the fire department now, because what are we asking the fire
Right.
department? If it's a little bit moved, they're not gonna care. If it's a lot moved,
They
they
might
will.
care, yeah.
So obviously, it should be there for the conversation. When the project comes to us and says, we're moving the fire hydrant, we could ask for input from the fire department. I wouldn't ask, to me, we don't need to ask them now if they care. Of course, they're gonna care if it's moved significantly. That's the whole point. We don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer. Like, if other communities are doing it, I don't think there's any harm in doing it. If we're nervous to do it, we can go back to my kind of more cautious idea, which is we draft a memo to applicants with actual live examples of what we've learned and seen over the last couple of years. We, the planning board of whatever, April 10th, these These are the things that we've experienced. You, as an applicant, we're trusting you to come to us if these kinds of changes occur prior to construction project. And we kind of watch it for a year, we collect examples, and then eventually we'll be ready for this kind of list if we're not ready. I'm ready. Like, I like this list. I'm ready to adopt it and just see how it goes. Obviously, it would be good if Deepa and Tricia could add a couple of design elements that are very detailed based on your experience, so that we can also capture those major materiality changes that are less subject, or more objective, right? Like things we can actually agree to. So the way you described it, like a window change that is like, you have to find it. You have to really look for it. Nobody cares about. But if there's, I don't know, dimension changes and size changes that a reasonable person would be upset about, how do you define that? In writing, I have no idea.
So are these snippets in, I mean, part of decision-making in other towns, or
I
where do you
believe they're
define?
in, I put every citation, so you could find them. I'm not sure I put a link, but I believe, because I did that actually like a while ago, I believe they were in their regulations, not in bylaws. They have a planning board regulations, right? Some are 8 pages, some are 80 pages. I don't think anyone was 80, but 40. So I do not believe any were a bylaw. It was in the planning board, essentially
I mean,
process.
it kind of makes sense. The planning board already has jurisdiction to approve these elements in a project. So logically, the planning board would have ability and jurisdiction to be like, if you mess with our decision, come back. That's really what this is.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that process, reading it further is, might be a good one here, the step A is that if the town planner and board chair, I don't think it necessarily has to be the chair, but, so say town planner and someone else, agree that the proposed change is de minimis, their decision shall stand without review by the board and shall be recorded in the case file. If the town planner and the board chair agree that the proposed change is not de minimis, or if the town planner and the board chair fail to agree on the determination, it will be referred to the board. And of course, if they think it's not, that would definitely come back to the board. So, which kind of makes a lot of sense. I just don't think it doesn't necessarily have to be the board chair, because there might be someone else on the board. The board chair doesn't have to be a designer or have the
I
most
mean,
experience on the
we can
board.
appoint someone,
You could
whatever.
appoint someone.
So
That's right.
if we
Or
do
project
that and
Per
not the
project,
board,
per
I mean, I personally prefer, if I'm not going to be on the board too much longer, but that whoever's making the decision has to write a little thing of why and sign their name to it, and not just,
Like,
right,
tell the board about it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, I
we
think
got
it's fine.
5 of these little
here's why
things.
we said it was, and you
Yeah,
sign your name.
I'm good
Like,
with that.
Yeah,
I like this process. I think it's cleaner and faster.
yeah, to report back, I think they
Yeah.
should have to report back to the board,
Yeah.
right?
Can be chair or appointed member. So if the chair doesn't feel like doing it, it can be someone we pick. But to me, this is kind of a no-brainer. Again, as long as Deepa and Tricia are willing to take a stab to add that design element.
Well, I'm not sure, with this process, I'm not sure it's about a design element. It's like, it's more like, is it a big change or is it a little change? And if it's a big
Defining that.
change,
That's
then
fine.
someone might be,
Yeah,
that,
that's
like,
fine.
it looks like a big change to me, so I think it should come
Yeah.
to the board, right? So,
That's fine. It sounds to me like we made some good progress. So like, what's the next step on this that we're comfortable with?
no, I think it's, what I would do first is to type this up, basically exactly as it is, and then kind of start fiddling with it.
Do you want to do that? Are you in that mindset to do it?
I could take a stab at it.
Okay.
That'd be great.
I
So-
can,
Would you
I
like my
think
copy?
that went to everyone, that you can un-PDF it. I probably can un-PDF it.
Okay.
I mean,
Right,
I
and
think
then
this was important to Kate, and I think it's great if we can make progress on it while Kate is still on the board. I will take personal responsibility for number 5 on the list, because I had promised I would eventually do the research on the zoning for downtown hotels. So I don't think I can do that by the time Kate leaves, but I can commit to like May, June to bring the research towards the board. It sounds like we are, I don't want to jinx us, but we're in a slightly quieter project-related area. So my legs are crossed and my fingers are crossed. So I would inspire and motivate the rest of the board, if there's an item that you care about, let's grab, if we each grab one. I mean, obviously, you guys are, sounds like Tricia might be grabbing onto the thing we just talked about, but if we're willing to grab one and kind of be responsible for bringing it to the board, maybe this is the time for us to quote-unquote plan for the next couple months.
So I'm going to put in, definitely a plug about the comprehensive plan, because that really.
What about it?
Supporting getting to the finish line, because there's some things,
Oh,
but
You mean
particularly.
getting another member? or-
No,
Okay.
So implementation
Oh,
plan
gotcha.
belongs with the planning board.
That's true. We have to
Okay,
start
and if
talking
you
about.
wait
yeah.
till it's all approved and done, it's just gonna sit there for a while and linger again. So typically, the comprehensive plan will say, this is what we want for our town. It's not going to get to the level of zoning changes that might need to accomplish them, for instance.
No, I
right?
understand.
So
So
they're two things related, right?
Typically, the planning board is not only involved in pushing a comprehensive
Yeah.
plan, but also pushing an implementation
Yes.
committee and starting to think about what are the zoning changes we need to draft. So
Yes.
essentially, as the comprehensive plan starts to do the writing work,
Yes,
we as a
we
planning
start.
board could bring that back here. And
Yeah.
in that year of writing, we could start thinking about the zoning
Yes.
changes that need to happen. Understood. I mean, I'm here for another year at least. So assuming I'm still on the comprehensive plan committee, which I am, I could certainly
I mean,
help
I
with
think,
that.
I'm just putting a plug for that,
Yeah.
because if that waits, it's just not gonna go well to keep
No,
the
I get
plan
it.
moving.
Because you don't want to pass the comprehensive plan and then be like rushing. to
Now
pass
what are we
zoning.
gonna do here?
You want to start working on those zoning changes
Mm-hmm.
or talking about them.
And just general implementation plan, I have lots of ideas how that could work, but anyway, if there's no plan,
mean, a
it's
lot
not
of
gonna
these-
happen.
No, I get it. I think I can kind of make a footnote for myself to think about that since I'm on the comprehensive plan committee.
What it sounds like, before we get to bylaw changes, it sounds like it's more about understanding what the implementation plan.
Committee,
looks
yeah,
like.
how that works.
Yeah, and then so that you can start looking at, well, are there bylaw changes? If so, what bylaw changes? When, kind of thing, versus just saying, we
Well,
gotta
it's
get these
about-
bylaws done really
yeah,
quick.
yeah,
It's
it's
like,
about
whoa,
engagement,
I'm
yeah.
that, no.
So numbers 8, 9, and 10 are more like easy, and 11 and 12, 8 through 12. I feel like we've been kind of doing it, meeting with different departments and do we want to maybe do some of that in the next couple of months?
Well, this
Especially with
number,
the zoning board of appeals in light of the 40B project?
well, number 11 almost gets like a green mark too, because they are forming a
Yeah.
historic district. That's also in process, right? And I think they're going to come back, do you know anything about that, Alvaro? I think they're maybe gonna come back.
I have not received any updates. I know that before Peter left, he did reach out, but I don't think he heard anything
Yeah.
at that point. I don't know if the email.
Because we had just requested some clarifications on the information, like an updated plan and for them to tie up the loose ends, on that. But so far, they haven't requested to come back. So,
Some of these, like the fiscal impact tool, I know Peter was working on, and obviously, once we have a new planner, we can come back to. And then like number 16, again, once we have a new board, we can discuss more. Anyhow, my 2 cents would be that we keep this list for our meetings, and it seems like this is the time of the year while we don't have a lot of big projects to see how much movement we can make.
yeah, for me, the priorities are the bylaw review and
Yep. Number
my,
6,
yes,
yeah.
and what I term that is not necessarily what other people term that. So I keep my own counsel about what I think about, those bylaws, which mostly to me is about inconsistencies, things that aren't clear, things that actually don't make sense. Not like, oh, I think this bylaw that should be changed, residents feel differently about that now. Not what I'm talking about.
You're talking about like cleaning up silly things that are like
Definitions that,
clearly are
yeah,
messed
that,
up.
that are
So
messed up.
I think that's fine. My concern is if those are like not, if the public doesn't see a work plan, then it's like, hey, I just got this change. And then it's like, where did this come from, right? I think we get ourselves in trouble when we don't bring the public along with that.
Yeah, I mean, when we upgraded everything, I think if you look back about how we presented the zoning changes in June of whatever it was, a few years ago when we were in COVID, and the MBTA bylaw, we went through that step by step by step. I presented at town meeting, step by step by step at numerous meetings. So I don't think there's any chance of this kind of just, never have I presented something, here, just sign it, right?
So-
It's about explaining what the inconsistency is, why it doesn't make sense, why it's messing up actually the logical understanding of our bylaws, and making those changes. I think actually a lot of times they're really easy to spell out when someone explains, this doesn't make, it actually
No,
doesn't make
I
sense.
think we
So-
recently have done a much better job. Unfortunately, right, so where we caught ourselves this time, we said, hey, let's have this meeting first. So if someone came to a hearing, a pre-meeting, we would have time to change it. We've had it where like, oh, sorry, thanks for your comments, but we can't change it to go to town meeting. Those are the kind of things about being well-planned and scheduled, so if you have a meeting to explain it, there's a chance for someone to make a
Let's talk
comment and
about what
change it.
has worked. So like with the MBTA stuff, what worked, I think, was there was a subcommittee appointed by the select board and the planning board. I think you were on it for the MBTA work. And there was a lot of work that went into it, and there was lots of meetings that were open to the public, and et cetera, et cetera. And so maybe we need to replicate this. For the zoning changes, maybe we need to think about, we as the planning board are able to appoint and create groups to support our work. The design review committee in the past has offered help. We could, in theory, put it upon them. We could delegate some of that work to them. We could also choose, this is not crazy, the planning board has the power to say, hey, we're looking for volunteers from the community. For example, those who are no longer with the board, we're looking for volunteers from the community to sit down and do this task. We want you to read the entire bylaw and look for the kinds of things that maybe Tricia's interested in, like what I would call kind of cleaning it up for inconsistency and lack of logic. And we're looking for a list of the top 10 things that need to be considered for bigger change, whatever that looks like. Like, we can delegate this work.
Well, like I said, I think you could be talking about the kind of changes I am, or maybe not, but I forgot, like, as I've said before, this is just, as you're gonna look at hotels, this is just something I'm gonna do. Frankly, I'm not really interested in being on a working group or anything else with
That's
it.
fine. If you want to do it, go for it.
So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
do it at my own pace,
That's
as
fine.
how when I see those things, I'll bring them before the board, and
Great.
that's the time and energy
fine.
I have to donate.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's great. That's awesome. I didn't want to just,
Nope, but if
Put you up for
someone else is gung-ho about signage or something else, they can run with
that's
it, I'm
fine.
good.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gung-ho about downtown hotels, so I'll do that. And you guys may not like it, and we'll see what happens. I think this is great. Thank you, Kate, for putting this together. I mean, it seems to me like we've done what we can for today on it. By the way, Airbnb short-term rentals, the sense I got from this board when we talked about it relative to ADUs, because a lot of communities handle these things together, the sense I got was that this was not the time for Ashland to do an Airbnb short-term rental bylaw. So I kind of dropped it from my purview.
I think when we're at a time with the state where we're short of housing, to create short-term rentals, to me, is
Well, that's
just,
what I just said.
Yeah,
That
no,
you
that's
guys
what
were
I'm
not
agreeing.
interested.
It's
But
just
guys, this
ridiculous.
was the opposite. This was saying, should we make it that you can't do it? Because it has an impact on the community. You can put regulations on short-term rentals in your community. Other communities have.
Yeah, you can basically say you're not allowing it. I got you.
Or limits, or.
Go the other way, yeah.
So
I
that
mean,
was,
I don't
that
s-
was the
yeah.
flavor of this.
I don't see it yet as a problem in Ashland. If you guys want to talk about it, we can. I mean, I think it's potentially an issue. But I haven't seen enough public interest to say shut it down.
okay, yeah, I thought you were,
So-
I thought you were looking to allow it more.
I was
or-
thinking
or-
you could do it in a variety of ways. You can regulate it, you can do, in some communities, they're making money off of it, you can tax them, you can do all kinds of fun stuff. So,
I mean, I can remove it from the list. I guess the overview is have another
Yeah.
retreat, right, with the new board and
Yep.
update the list. Assign the clerk to keep it up. This wasn't really assigned to me, I just did.
no, I get it. I think that we've made enough progress. It sounds like I'm stepping up to say I'll own number 5. Tricia's saying she's gonna take care of number 6 at her own timeframe. Deepa and Tricia both are looking at number 18 more. And I'm, gonna do my best with 14 and 15. And then we're gonna have a new board, and we're gonna see what else the board is willing to do. And hopefully for the next meeting, when Kate is still with us, we can make some more progress on number 18. Because it sounds like Tricia had some ideas of taking it and fiddling with it a little bit. So I personally feel like we've made sufficient progress on this for today.
I'd agree with that.
Is there anything else in our agenda?
I think you moved everything up before this so that we wouldn't have anything
All right.
after.
Great.
A plot,
Do
and
you
it
want
worked.
a motion to adjourn? I'll make a motion to adjourn for 8:40 PM.
I'll second it myself.
All right.
And a roll call vote.
Deepa Venkata.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Catherine Jersey,
And Tricia Kendall, aye. 8:40.